AIM-listed Jubilee Metals is a £400 million plus metals producer whose business model focuses on treating and cleaning up tailings dumps and primary ore surplus generated from third-party mining operations. And of course, with obligations around the environment now, these companies that effectively clear up mining production sites turn what are liabilities into assets. Seems to be profitable as well, as the business saw total revenue for 2021 up by a margin of 143%. Let's get some more now with the Chief Executive of Jubilee, Coetzer.
Thank you very
welcome.
much.
It's great to have you in town while you're here, of course, in London, passing through with the messaging that you've got now for the business. I want to get to ground one, first of all, if I can, and talk a little bit more about the business and the business model. Because this idea about clearing up after other mining companies have done what they've done would seem to be something that everybody ought to be doing, but you're actually making money out of it.
Oh, very much so. I mean, we started life as Jubilee back in 2015 when we launched the strategy that we now look to grow even further, to question, first of all, what is in waste, why it's branded as unrecoverable, waste or marginal ore. That led us to, as a group, analyze what actually is recoverable in waste. Could we challenge those norms? And that led to the opportunity, where we today operate as a company where we process material previously we call unloved material. We process materials allowing the mining industry to review what they have regarded as uneconomical. We focus, as you correctly say, on waste, historical waste. These are waste dumps that are polluting environments, that are risking the societies living around them. And we look at these opportunities to, while within the rehabilitation process, to also extract that value that's within that waste. And as you correctly say, our numbers, we demonstrated to the industry, we had to educate the industry that by focusing on the reclamation of metals out of waste, it is sustainable. It's an industry that is formalizing, and the benefits both to the mining entity and, of course, the environment within which these tailings exist is tremendous.
In the business model, do you get paid by these mining companies that have done their job and got these piles of what they regard as surplus material? Do you get paid by them to clear up? Because, as I said, there's an environmental issue here as well, isn't there? You help to repair some of the what some might be regarded as damage, or certainly peripheral things that happen after mining. Do you get paid by these companies to clear up, or is it just in the value of the metal that you find?
We absolutely pursue a model where there's a synergistic relationship. So no, we don't pursue a payment to clean up. We instead form a partnership with the owner to form a joint venture to extract that metal and share in the profitability of that metal that's extracted. And that's how we form a relationship where not only do we make money, but beyond the liability being addressed, the mining entity seeks to expose even more of their facilities, of their operations, of their waste to us to increase their benefit, both in the monetary as well as on the liability side. So
why don't the mining companies clear up their own waste and benefit from re-examining these tailings dumps for more material?
It's about focus. When you're a mining company, your focus and your core business is to extract as best you can the value from your mined ore. To extract the value out of tails is a very different business. Right. We are not leveraging off inefficiencies of the main process. We are leveraging off metals that are lost by the main process, rejected by the main process. It needs a different technical solution to extract that metal. And therefore, for the large entities, it's far more sensible to focus on the core business, but expose themselves to the benefit, the IP and the technology we bring.
Yeah. Metals involved, what are you looking for? What are you engaged in finding through these tailings dumps?
Well, we started life in the chrome industry and in the platinum group metals, platinum, palladium, rhodium, ruthenium, very profitable for our group. And in 2019, as a directorship, we looked at our business to see, well, then that model that works so successfully, how can we diversify that into other metal groups and to other regions? We prioritize copper as the next metal to pursue.
Yeah. Part of that, I think, is contained in your global development strategy, isn't it? Which I know you renewed at the back end of last year. Give us some more details about what's involved with that. And is that something that's puts the past behind and reestablishes you in a new direction? Or is it just a question of carrying on what you've been doing for the last 3 or 4 years?
Excellent. No, what it really is now that we've educated the industry on what the potential is, it's taking that model and replicating it into other regions and into other metal groups. We went after copper initially, now, because it's the fundamentals behind copper is so strong, but more so if you look at the world of waste, the copper dominates in that space. About how much copper is actually annually added to an existing large waste portfolio. On top of that, our technical and development teams have entered the copper industry, and as of today, we're bringing into operation a brand new refining and concentrating facility dedicated to the reprocessing of copper waste, and already targeting more than 10,000 tons of copper cathode per annum purely off that. And that's just the start of entering the industry.
Let's take a look at the share price chart, because I think it's worth looking at where you've come from and what's happened. Normally, when you look at share price charts of companies, you see this low that we've got here was the COVID low. Indeed, was the COVID low, and then of course it's got the big rise. But unlike a lot of other companies, the pullback has only been marginal. And you've got here, as I said, a company worth £400+ million on the stock exchange at the moment, on the AIM stock exchange. What are you going to be telling investors from here on in with this new global strategy?
Oh, absolutely. You know, you look at the curve and you might think, well, you've hit your new plateau. So your growth is reflected in your share price. What that growth in that curve has demonstrated is educating the industry, delivering on what we said we would deliver, delivering our earnings. The fact that we've now moved into the copper industry, the fact that our first successful facility is going into commissioning mode with the potential to double our existing earnings, is the next inflection. It's the next layer of growth. It's why we launched the global strategy. We have the potential to make that 10,000 tons multiples of 10,000 tons within one region alone. Every 10,000 tons doubles our current earnings we're generating in the group.
I think WH Ireland have said that they fully, this is the broker, I think it's your in-house broker, isn't it?
Yes.
They say that they published a paper, I think 50% up this year. Is that achievable? Are you happy about that? Are you quite a big level to live up to?
Yes, I mean, we're targeting just on copper alone, just on what we have currently, which is currently being commissioned, to double our revenue and earnings just on the back of the first step into copper already.
Yeah, and I think also recently as well, you've had Fidelity come on board, haven't you, as a large shareholder?
Correct.
3.5% or something. What's that mean to you as a company when you got that sort of support?
We're seeing more and more of the institutional large investors starting to take an interest in what we do. I think it indicates that the industry, both investment and mining sector, is realizing that what we had said, that we are establishing a company within an industry that will formalize. It's an industry that's able to deliver sustained earnings with tremendous growth opportunities. And that recognition from the likes of a Fidelity and others coming into our shareholding is just another way of confirmation that we're on the right track. They have not invested in us to sit at where we are today. They are investing in us because they believe in what we're about to deliver as the next phase of our growth.
What about geographies that you're operating in at the moment?
Yes.
Where are you going to go? How do you see the business expanding in terms of where you want your footprint to go? Because I think you're based in Africa, aren't you? But
Correct.
do you see that as where your limit is?
No, very much so. So first of all, absolutely, we are currently in South Africa and Zambia operational. We are drawn to regions. We are not chasing the next tailings dam where we're going to other regions. We are chasing the next cluster of waste. If you look at our business model, what we've implemented is we go into a region. We go into a region and we absorb the waste within a region. We've moved into Zambia, where we are looking at developing a regional strategy both for the southern and northern side of Zambia. So the obvious jurisdictions that we will go to from there are areas where you have regional opportunities within waste. It means that within Southern Africa, so Africa in a certain context is blessed with a lot of surface waste material that desperately needs solutions. But you're equally driven to establish mining jurisdictions where these wastes exist within regions. You've got South America, you've got the eastern side of Europe, that naturally are regions that would draw Jubilee and requires Jubilee's approach into that region.
What about shareholder rewards? You've spoken about the share price chart. You're expecting this to rise again, as you've already seen. I mean, that itself is in reward. But what about shareholders? How are you engaging with them? What's the promise to get them moving into this stock as a retail investor? What are you saying about dividends and long-term shareholder appreciation?
The first critical part is to explain the simplicity of what we do. Where we started out life was the complexity of educating the market about what we are pursuing. There was no reference to reference us to someone. The first messaging, therefore, was critical in this simplicity. We've done it. We've demonstrated it. We are now replicating that. So the first messaging is the simplicity and the margins of our business, because of the manner in which we conduct our business, the responsibility, and yes, of course, the environmental components to it. The next phase is the capital return we deliver. If you look at the capital we deploy and the return we make on that capital is the second draw card. And then ultimately, absolutely, with the opportunity in front of us now, we are not going to pay dividends in the next 2 years. We are using our capital to grow as our share price reflects, reinvesting into that growth that we have educated the industry on, and that is now being offered to Jubilee. But if you start looking at us 3 years and 4 years into the future, we are clearly, with the margins we make and the cash we generate, a potential dividend-paying company.
Is that cash you're generating enough to sustain the business, or are you going to have to come back to the market for more money? What's the debt situation like? How strong is the balance sheet?
Excellent. A great question. I mean, if you look at what we've done very purposefully to deliver this growth and now prepare the company for the next layer of growth to come, our company have settled all long-term debt, both in our South African business, both in delivering the copper strategy with its refining component, yet with the potential of yet doubling our earnings. We are, as an entity, have no secured long-term debt on the balance sheet at all. Critical position to be in. So you're able to now leverage that balance sheet for the next layer of growth, plus the fact that we have repeatable earnings. We have earnings that have been repeatable through the past financial periods. It draws in banks now to look at our cornerstone funding for our projects. So we certainly are not looking towards our equity to fund our growth.
One final question has to be about the current geopolitical unrest.
Of course.
And what that means to a company. Aside of the dreadful humanitarian cost. No one wins out of war. I get very emotional about this, and I think it's important to underscore the fact that this is a tragic situation. But we've got to talk about the company and how you move into this sort of new era almost. And we've seen metals markets, price rising and so forth. Anybody with any association with the metals markets are, by nature, the very way in which markets work, to benefit from that. What are your thoughts about how to engage with this sort of situation at the moment? What is the company doing, or how are you able to benefit from this rise in metals prices?
There's critical components that even before the current crisis, COVID educated companies as well, is agility. Agility is critical. During COVID, we built a copper concentrating facility in COVID, which meant that we had to cope with dramatic challenges around logistics, getting equipment and utilities and chemicals to our facilities. We passed that. You're right, we now enter into this current unexpected phase where metal prices have accelerated. So as a company's agility, on the one side, we are focusing to ensure that our palladium side of our business is accelerated. So if you look at the type of wastes we currently process, is our exposure to palladium to increase that palladium exposure from the current rise that's come through in the palladium price. At the same time, one has to be very clear that the challenges on logistics has only grown because of the conflict. To be able to move your product, to get your product to the end client.
And your associated costs, presumably.
Absolutely. So the logistic component of our group had to be sharpened up significantly from COVID and into the current crisis. But recognizing that you have to be agile. You have to be agile. You cannot build your company's success off the current run in metal prices alone. It has to be built off efficiencies. It has to be built off sustained margins in the current environment we live in.
Are you very heavy on cost in terms of energy?
We're fortunately not, because we're not a mining company.
Right.
We're a processing company. So that's the one benefit we have. The other part is we are a very technical company. Our facilities are highly automated facilities. We are exceptionally well below industry norm on power, well below industry norm on water. Our level of water reclamation is well above industry, because we do that as part of the rehabilitation component of our project. So our energy footprint is significantly lower than what a typical entity producing our metals would be.
Okay, let's just round it all off and talk a little bit about the future. Back into this year, calendar year, where are you going to be? What's the situation? We've spoken a little bit about your aspirations and so forth. What are you going to be telling me at the back end of the year when you come back in, which we'd love to have you back in, of course.
I would love that as well. The first part is, of course, assuming we do nothing else, is that we are bringing into life and currently commissioning our copper strategy. We are adding that onto the business. So assuming we have no further successes, we will be delivering to our shareholders, to our investors, a company who operates both in chrome, platinum group metals, and copper, and currently expanding into cobalt. As well as the fact that as a group, we have already contracted in another 300 million tons of copper tailings as the next growth within the copper industry. So if you look at this calendar year lying ahead, we are a company delivering copper, and we are a company executing another significant multiple of growth on copper and cobalt without the additional strategy about further global growth on top of our group.
Good. Well, look, do pass by again later in the year, because we'd love to hear how things are going.
Oh, absolutely.
In the meantime, we'll look out for more news from Jubilee Metals. That's the Chief Executive of the company, Leon Coetzer. For more videos from us here at IGTV, join us on Twitter at IGCom, Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.